To create a discussion in Blackboard, you will want to go to the discussion board. If you are using the stick template, it will automatically be linked under quick links. You will click on the discussion board itself. You may have previous materials that already have been provided to you, but when you want to create a new forum, you will come to the discussion board, click on Create Forum. This will open a settings page where you can start to enter your text and change your settings. So the first thing that you want to do is give the document a title. This is required for saving it, you will put a title, and the title can be relevant to the discussion, the topic, however you want it to be. Your description box is going to be the actual question or prompt for the students to be able to start the conversation. And so you will want to write something up that will get students to start talking, answer questions, that kind of thing as well. You can also have a generic Q&A discussion. Some people do a in-class kind of conversation discussion, and then also have a Q&A that is for the whole class, for the whole semester, or a Q&A in addition to each week. Then what you'll want to do is scroll down, and as always, you're going to have to choose how this is going to be displayed and if it is available. If you are working on this and the class is currently running, you may wish to hold off and make this unavailable, but the default for all new discussion forums is going to be yes. Additionally, you can enter your date and time restrictions, and you can set this up so that students will not see this until the week that that discussion is to be displayed and conversation is to be had. Additionally, you will have a series of forum settings. The forum settings, there are two kinds. You are going to have view threads and how students are going to view the threads and reply. The first view is a standard view where students will read the prompt, they will click on the prompt, and then enter in an area where they can create a thread. Additionally, you have the ability, which we call post first, but the language says here participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in the forum. This means that students will see the prompt and then they will have to create a thread immediately. They do not have access to anyone else's prompts or responses prior to them writing theirs. So this is a post first. And then after they posted their first response, what will happen is that they will see all the other class members' posts. This is a way to prevent people from being influenced by other people's posts. So you can have a choice between standard view or post first, or participants must create a thread first. That is up to you. We do recommend that you don't swap back and forth. This can be very confusing for students, but again, as long as you can communicate to the students, you may wish to use both or just stick with either standard view or post first throughout the semester. Please be aware that the following settings after this will be affected by your choice. For standard view, you will be able to choose all of the options that are available. However, if you choose the participants must create a thread first, this will start to gray out particular items because in order for the system to track that the student has posted first, it must allow the students not to be able to remove their posts from the form altogether. So some of these features will no longer be available. You just need to make the choice if that particular set of features is something that you would prefer not to lose in your conversations with your students. So I'm going to go back and choose standard view for this particular one. Then I'm going to scroll down a little bit further and I'm going to come to the grading section. The default is no grading in this form. That means that this is an ungraded discussion and that no grades will be taken. Additionally, there will be no grading information or input available to you at that time. If you wish to grade your forms, you will check the radio button that says grade discussion forms, and then you will want to enter a points possible. The default is 0, and you can choose whatever points possible you wish. This will grade the entire form. It does not matter how many times students reply. It will give a whole aggregate of the entire conversation for each individual student. If you wish to grade each individual thread that a student posts up, say you want to actually grade posts based on how many they did and then also the quality of their posts, you can click on to grade threads. Also, additionally, when you do this, it is going to set a feature that says that new threads was turned off, because that is going to prevent students from creating more threads than available for the course. So grades, again, when you choose what you want to be graded, this is going to let you do the whole forum, threads within the forum, or no grading at all. I'm going to go ahead and do grade forum, and I'm going to set my point value to a 2. Additionally, there's a feature here that says show participants in needs grading a status after every number of posts. In this case, the default is 1, but say that you have a requirement for a first post and 2 replies. The system will not give you an indicator that the student has completed what needs to happen until they have 3 posts. This does not guarantee that all of those posts are a first post and 2 replies. However, this is usually an indicator that the students have met the minimum criteria that you have asked them to. If you ask them to create 2 posts, this would not give you a flag in Blackboard, or in this case an exclamation point, to let you know that the student has met the criteria that you have set up in your needs grading and to them in the discussion forum. Additionally, you can create a due date where you can enter the due date either manually or use one of the features of the calendar tool or the time selection menu. Either way, these let you have an actual due date on there. This will not prevent students from being able to add content after the due date. However, it will show an indicator in Blackboard that the student has been late, and that if you do any type of change of grade due to lateness, this will be the indicator for you. However, if it's just so that students can have that information, you can choose that as well and disregard and do not have to change any grade point value if they turned anything in late. Additionally, if you're an individual who uses rubrics in your class, you can actually have an electric rubric that will apply a copy of that rubric to each student, and you would actually have a manual rubric form that you can grade from. You can use a rubric that you may have already created in Blackboard. You can create a brand new rubric on the fly, or you can make a copy of an existing rubric and then make changes if that for some reason there is a change to the rubric that you originally used. You will want to select a rubric if you've already made one and not continually to create from existing, because this just simply makes a copy of one. So you would just select this each time, and the system understands that you're using a rubric and it's making a copy every time for you. If you have more questions about the rubric tool, feel free to contact the Center for Online and Digital Learning, and we'd be more than willing to have a conversation about rubrics. Additionally, you have the ability to turn on and turn off subscription. Subscription is an automatic feature that is on by default, and it allows students to subscribe, clicking a button on each forum where they will get an email notification that someone has participated in the forum. Students can choose to, you can choose to change these settings to not allow for subscriptions, to allow them to subscribe to individual threads, which means if they just want to follow ones that they have written in, they can follow that as well, or they will get notifications about an entire forum and the progress of that. You, as a faculty member, can also subscribe, and this lets you keep track of when students are participating and make sure that it reminds you that when someone's participating, you might want to go into the class that day, or if you're available immediately just to see the response, just so that you keep up on all the discussions in the course. You have 2 options when you let people subscribe to forums, and one is that they get a copy of the actual post in the email, or they get a link included. Traditionally, our advice is that you want to include link to the post, but not the entire post in the email. So that it encourages students to come into Blackboard and use the tool and respond right then and there. But also, if you're writing anything with sensitive information, giving that stuff out to people's email makes it just more easier to forward and makes it out there and doesn't bring the students back into Blackboard. Either way, you can make a choice, but the default is to have subscriptions. It is not an incredibly popular tool, but there usually is no harm in letting people choose if they want to subscribe or not. Then we're going to come down to the area called Create and Edit. Now, remember, based on the criteria that I chose this to be a graded form. It's going to not allow me to have anonymous posts because I need to apply a name to a grade. But if I had an ungraded form, it would let me be able to have anonymous posting. So if I wanted feedback and I didn't want to have the students feel like they had to give their name out or their name would be associated with what they wrote, I could go ahead and change that to allow anonymous. But graded posts, we need a name for it. You also have the ability to allow author to delete their own posts, to edit their own published posts, or to create new threads. Now, given the criteria that you want to have for this discussion and how you would like discussions in your online class to go, you can pick and choose what you would like. Most people are not fans of letting people delete their own posts, but they would certainly let them edit them. That's really up to you and your choice of however you want to. But if you choose to do that, selecting, you are just going to click on the box. By default, you have to make the choice that students can delete, edit, or create new threads. Additionally, the default is allowing students to turn file attachments in. If this is not turned on, and you want to have students upload an image or a paper for review from fellow classmates, they would not be allowed to because the file attachment button would not be available. If you would like people to solely use the discussion board and not apply Word or any type of attachment to that, you can unselect that at any time. Additionally, there is a feature that is called reply with quote. That is, if you select this button, they can quote someone else from the class so that they are making a reference to someone else's post. That is also turned on by default. Forced moderation of posts. Moderation is a feature that's available on Blackboard where you can assign any of the other users to basically be moderators of the forum. And forcing moderation means that it is held before it is published, and the people that you have designated to be the moderators must go in, review, and then allow the post to be seen to the rest of the class. If you choose to use moderation, please be aware there's going to be additional communication about who is moderating, the rules of moderation, and what happens when people do not meet the expectations. So it's up to you, but that is also by default not turned on, but that is to allow you that we do have a group moderation tool. And so if you wanted to have people moderate in pairs or do some type of where they're reviewing their own peers' work, you can do this as well. There are two additional options, not frequently used, but completely available to you. Allow post tagging. Post tagging allows you to actually click on a post and then give it some type of reference that you can then look through posts in the future. So if someone talks about a particular topic, or you want to flag something that has people making sure that it's important or relevant, or people to come back to it, you can also do that. So students would be able to make their own posts and tag them with certain phrases and terms so that they can remember ones that were salient points or ones that they wanted to come back and review. And then the last feature that is going to be available is allow members to rate posts. This is a rating scale system. It only accesses stars, and you can't actually assign a value to each of the stars. So between 1 and 5, and then you would have to either provide that in the actual forum text, but there is no indicator of what a 1 means, a 2 means, a 5 means. This might be very good if you're doing something where you're having students submit instructions and then the rest of the class votes on it to let them know that this was a really good post, or if you want to do something where people just recognize other people's work in the class. Not heavily used as a tool, but it also is available if you so choose. Once you've completed writing, coming up your title, your prompt, all of the settings, usually this won't take as long as you get more practiced in this. You can either cancel if you've chosen to not continue, or go ahead and click on submit. When you hit submit, any brand new item is going to be posted at the bottom, and you'll see here that I have a week 2 chapter 2 submission and question or prompt for student.